Do you remember the comforting dishes your grandparents made that you rarely see today? These African American comfort foods once turned humble ingredients into meals full of flavor, warmth, and family tradition. They nourished more than just the body. They carried stories, ingenuity, and resilience from one generation to the next. Today, many of these dishes have disappeared from our tables, but it's time to rediscover the 30 lost favorites that shaped kitchens and memories alike. Hog maw and chitterlings. Hog maw and chitterlings. Names that might make a modern foodie hesitate, yet for generations of African American families, they were dishes of warmth, ingenuity, and stubborn pride. Born out of necessity during eras when nothing went to waste, these dishes trace their roots to the South, where enslaved cooks learned to transform humble, overlooked cuts of pork into meals that nourish both body and spirit. Hog maw, the pig's stomach stuffed with a mixture of sausage, potatoes, and onions, emerges as a testament to resourcefulness. Every bite carries the earthy richness of pork, subtly tempered by the starch and seasoning that stretched a single hog into enough food to feed a family. Chitterlings, the cleaned and boiled intestines, might require patience and care. The ritual of washing, simmering, and seasoning is a labor of love. But once cooked, they deliver a deeply savory, almost smoky flavor that lingers like a memory of Sunday dinners past. These dishes were not merely sustenance, they were conversation starters, family traditions, and markers of resilience. Kids grew up learning to appreciate what others might dismiss, passing down techniques from mother to daughter, from grandmother to grandson. In church basements and family kitchens, the aromas of hog maw and chitterlings mingled with laughter, storytelling, and the clatter of utensils against enamelware. Today, fast food and pre-packaged convenience have largely pushed these meals from everyday tables, yet their charm remains undeniable. They remind us that comfort food isn't always about indulgence. It can be about survival, creativity, and community. Reconnecting with hog maw and chitterlings is like picking up a forgotten thread in a tapestry of cultural memory, offering a taste of history, a lesson in frugality, and a reminder that even the humblest ingredients can carry extraordinary meaning. Pig's feet and collard greens. Pig's feet and collard greens are the kind of dishes that carry the weight of history in every bite. Once staples in African American kitchens, especially in the rural South, they speak to an era when resourcefulness wasn't a choice. It was survival. Pig's feet, often overlooked by wealthier diners, were prized for their rich, gelatinous flavor, perfect for slow-cooked stews and broths. Simmered low and slow, the meat becomes tender, the skin slightly sticky, and the bones release a depth that transforms simple water into a savory, soul-satisfying stock. Collard greens, cooked alongside smoky ham hocks or seasoned with vinegar, onion, and a pinch of red pepper, offer a bright, earthy counterpoint, balancing richness with a slight bitterness that becomes comforting with every mouthful. These dishes were more than dinner. They were a lesson in resilience. Families stretched every ingredient, learned to coax flavor from what others discarded, and created meals that nourished both body and spirit. The ritual of prepping collards, stripping each leaf and simmering them until tender, often involves storytelling, laughter, and the passing down of culinary wisdom from one generation to the next. Pig's feet, once a humble choice, became a centerpiece of family gatherings, a marker of ingenuity and pride. In today's world of fast casual chains and pre-packaged meals, pig's feet and collard greens are rare on menus, yet they hold a timeless appeal. They remind us that comfort food doesn't always mean convenience. There's richness in tradition, in patience, and in flavors built slowly, deliberately with care. Revisiting these dishes today isn't just about tasting the past. It's about honoring the creativity and resilience of those who turned frugality into a culinary art, proving that even the simplest ingredients can feed the soul. Smothered rabbit. Smothered rabbit is one of those dishes that seems almost mythical today, yet it was once a fixture on Southern African American tables. During times when store-bought meat was a luxury, rabbit, readily available from local farms, backyards, or hunts, became a practical and satisfying source of protein. The dish is a lesson in patience and ingenuity. Tender rabbit pieces are seared to lock in flavor,
preparing rabbits and
then slowly smothered in a rich, savory gravy made from onions, stock, and a touch of flour to thicken. The aroma alone, filling the kitchen with warm, earthy scents, was enough to summon family from the farthest corners of the house. Beyond sustenance, the smothered rabbit carried meaning. It was a dish that honored frugality while celebrating culinary skill, turning what might have been seen as a modest or humble protein into something indulgent on the palate. Preparing it often required knowledge passed down through generations, the precise balance of seasoning, the gentle simmer that keeps meat moist, and the understanding of how to coax maximum flavor from each cut. For many, it was a centerpiece for Sunday dinners, church gatherings, or harvest celebrations. A reminder that ingenuity and care could transform simple ingredients into something memorable. In today's world, where meat often comes pre-packaged and convenience trumps tradition, smothered rabbit is largely forgotten. Yet revisiting it offers more than a taste of the past. It's a reminder of a culinary heritage built on resourcefulness, patience, and flavor. Eating it today is like taking a seat at a long-forgotten family table, savoring not only tender meat and rich gravy, but also the stories, pride, and resilience of those who kept these dishes alive through necessity and love. Smothered rabbit proves that comfort food is about heart, history, and the magic of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Cracklin' cornbread. Cracklin' cornbread is a dish that carries the crunch and warmth of history in every bite. For generations of African American families, it wasn't just a side. It was a testament to creativity born from necessity. The recipe calls for simple pantry staples, cornmeal, flour, milk, and eggs, but what elevates it is the addition of pork cracklings, leftover bits of fried pork skin, which infuse the bread with bursts of savory flavor and a satisfying, crispy texture. The sizzling sound as it hits a hot skillet is almost musical, signaling a meal about to nourish both body and spirit. The origins of crackling cornbread trace back to rural southern kitchens, where nothing went to waste.
Crackling cornbread, and it is delicious.
It was a clever way to stretch meat, turning scraps into something celebratory. Families learned to fold cracklings into the batter just so, achieving a delicate balance between tender bread and crunchy, salty pockets of pork. The preparation itself often became a ritual. The clatter of a cast iron skillet, the aroma of cornmeal browning, and the laughter of children waiting for a warm slice straight from the pan. In many households, this cornbread was more than sustenance. It was community, family, and a lesson in making something remarkable out of humble ingredients. Though modern palates may lean toward pre-packaged mixes or buttered loaves, crackling cornbread holds a timeless charm. It reminds us that comfort food is as much about texture, memory, and ingenuity as it is about taste. Eating it today is a connection to kitchens of the past where resourcefulness met flavor and every bite carried a story. Crackling cornbread proves that sometimes the most unassuming ingredients, cornmeal and leftover pork, can produce a dish that's crunchy, soulful, and unforgettable. Salmon croquettes. Salmon croquettes are the kind of dish that effortlessly blends frugality with flavor.
I'm making salmon croquettes. Some of you guys out there, the ones that especially the ones.
A true testament to African-American ingenuity in the kitchen. Born in an era when fresh meat could be scarce or expensive, canned salmon became a pantry hero. Combined with simple binders like breadcrumbs, eggs, and a touch of seasoning, the fish was shaped into patties and fried until golden brown, crisp on the outside and tender on the inside. Each bite carries a mild, smoky richness, a satisfying reminder that humble ingredients, when treated with care, can be elevated into something special. These croquettes were more than just quick meals. They were comfort food in miniature. For families with little to spare, they stretched a single can of salmon into a feast for the table, often paired with mashed potatoes, greens, or a side of cornbread. Making them was an art as much as a necessity, knowing the right consistency so the patties held together, seasoning just enough to complement the fish, and frying them to a perfect golden crust. The process often brought family kitchens alive, with children eagerly helping shape the patties, while grandparents shared stories of Sunday dinners or neighborhood gatherings where these croquettes reigned supreme. Today, salmon croquettes are largely absent from most modern tables, overshadowed by convenience foods and pre-packaged fish products. Yet revisiting them offers more than a taste of the past. It's a nod to resourcefulness, tradition, and the simple joys of home cooking. Each golden croquette is a reminder that comfort food isn't always about indulgence. Sometimes it's about taking what's available and transforming it into something nourishing, flavorful, and enduring. Salmon croquettes carry that legacy, proving that even the simplest pantry staples can tell a story, feed a family, and linger in memory long after the last bite. Hoppin' John with turnip greens. Hoppin' John with turnip greens is a dish steeped in history, culture, and good luck. A culinary tradition that African-American families have cherished for generations.
Hoppin' John black-eyed pea stew.
Born from Southern roots, this meal was a clever and frugal way to celebrate the new year, using black-eyed peas for prosperity, rice to fill hungry bellies, and collard or turnip greens to symbolize wealth. Each element carried meaning. The peas, small and abundant, promised luck. The greens, leafy and rich, hinted at financial blessing. And a little bacon or ham hock infused the dish with savory depth, turning simple ingredients into something comforting, celebratory, and sustaining. The preparation itself was a labor of love, often taking place in bustling kitchens where storytelling, laughter, and teaching blended with the rhythmic chopping of onions and simmering of peas. Hoppin' John was not just about sustenance, it was a lesson in ingenuity. Families learned to coax maximum flavor from modest ingredients, using seasoning, smoke, and slow cooking to transform pantry staples into a meal that could feed both body and soul. Turnip greens, simmered low with a touch of vinegar and pepper, balanced the dish with earthy bitterness and tender leaves, offering a foil to the richness of the black-eyed peas and pork. Today, with convenience foods and fast casual dining dominating, Hoppin' John with turnip greens is rarely seen on weekday tables, yet it retains a timeless charm. Revisiting it connects us to a history of resilience, creativity, and community, reminding us that comfort food is often about symbolism, memory, and care as much as flavor. One bite is a bridge to the past, a taste of tradition, and a reminder that African American kitchens turn simplicity into abundance, teaching lessons of resourcefulness that are just as relevant today. Fried oysters and cornmeal. Fried oysters dredged in cornmeal are a dish that captures the essence of coastal Southern ingenuity. For generations, African American cooks relied on the bounty of nearby waters,
and I'm going to show you the history of fried oysters.
Turning humble, freshly harvested oysters into golden, crispy morsels. The oysters were lightly seasoned, coated in cornmeal, and fried until their edges crisped to a delicate crunch, while the interior remained tender and briny. A perfect contrast of textures that made every bite a little celebration. Cornmeal, a pantry staple, added not just crunch, but a comforting earthiness that complemented the natural sweetness of the shellfish. This dish is more than just flavor. It's a testament to resourcefulness. In times when access to fresh meat was limited, oysters provided an affordable, protein-rich alternative. Cooking them required attention and patience, a steady hand at the skillet, and a keen sense of timing to avoid overcooking. Families often gathered around the kitchen as the sizzling sound filled the air, the smell of hot cornmeal and briny oysters pulling everyone closer. It was a dish that marked community gatherings, late summer suppers, and coastal traditions passed down through generations. Today, fried oysters are largely relegated to specialty restaurants or seasonal markets, a far cry from the everyday comfort they once provided. Revisiting them reminds us that comfort food isn't always about luxury. It's about creativity, care, and the ability to transform what's available into something memorable. Each golden oyster, with its crisp cornmeal exterior and tender, flavorful interior, carries the legacy of kitchens that valued ingenuity and taste over extravagance. Fried oysters and cornmeal remain a flavorful bridge to the past, offering both a lesson in frugality and a reminder of the richness that humble ingredients can achieve when handled with love and skill. Chicken bog. Chicken bog is the kind of dish that feels like a warm hug in a bowl, born out of Southern resourcefulness and African American culinary ingenuity.
We're going to do low country chicken bog. Now, I spent a portion of my
Its roots trace to the rural South, where families made the most of a single chicken, stretching it into a hearty, satisfying meal that could feed a crowd. The bog comes from the rice, which absorbs the flavors of simmered chicken, onions, and a few humble seasonings, creating a savory, cohesive dish that is simple yet deeply comforting. Occasionally, a bit of smoked sausage or bacon would join the pot, infusing the rice with smoky richness, though the beauty of the recipe lies in its to be flavorful without extravagance. This dish was as much about practicality as it was about tradition. Cooking chicken bog meant stretching limited ingredients while still providing a meal that felt abundant. Families learned to simmer the chicken until the meat was tender enough to fall from the bone, letting the rice soak up the resulting broth. The act of preparing it was communal too. Children stirring the pot, elders offering tips on seasoning, and stories of Sunday dinners or harvest celebrations flowing alongside the aroma. Every simmering pot carried both nourishment and memory, turning modest ingredients into a shared experience of comfort and care. In today's fast food-driven world, chicken bog has largely fallen from the mainstream, yet its charm remains timeless. It reminds us that comfort food doesn't have to be complicated or costly. Recreating it today is not just about the taste, it's about connecting with a history of resilience, patience, and ingenuity. Each spoonful is a nod to kitchens that valued creativity over abundance and proves that even the simplest ingredients, chicken, rice, and a little seasoning, can produce a dish rich in flavor, tradition, and soul. Field pea soup. Field pea soup is a dish that carries the quiet wisdom of African American kitchens, where resourcefulness turned simple, humble ingredients into soulful meals. Field peas, small, tender legumes often overlooked by the wealthier table, were a staple in Southern homes. Simmered slowly with onions, garlic, and a touch of smoked meat like ham hocks or bacon, they transformed into a thick, flavorful broth that nourished both body and spirit. Each spoonful delivers an earthy sweetness, punctuated by the smoky depth of the seasoning, a reminder that comfort often comes from patience and care rather than extravagance. The preparation of field pea soup was as much about community as it was about sustenance. Generations of families would gather around the kitchen stove, sharing stories while tending the simmering pot. The slow cooking process allowed flavors to meld and deepen, while also providing an opportunity for teaching. How to balance seasoning, how to coax tenderness from the peas, and how to stretch a modest amount of meat into a dish that could feed an entire family. The soup was a lesson in frugality, showing that even the simplest legumes could become a centerpiece of nourishment and pride. In today's world, where convenience often trumps tradition, field pea soup has largely slipped from everyday tables. Yet revisiting it offers more than flavor. It's a bridge to the past, a taste of resilience, and a reminder that comfort food doesn't have to be flashy. Each hearty bowl speaks of kitchens that valued ingenuity, patience, and shared meals, proving that even the most modest ingredients can carry extraordinary warmth, sustenance, and memory. Field pea soup is not just a meal, it is a celebration of tradition, resourcefulness, and the enduring soul of Southern African American cooking. Sweet potato pone. Sweet potato pone is a dessert that tastes like history itself, a humble yet deeply comforting creation from African American kitchens of the South. During times when sugar was scarce or expensive, families turned to the naturally sweet, earthy flavors of sweet potatoes to create a treat that was rich, satisfying, and nourishing. Mashed sweet potatoes were mixed with a few pantry staples: flour, milk, eggs, a pinch of nutmeg or cinnamon, and sometimes molasses, then baked until golden and slightly firm, creating a pudding-like texture that could be sliced and shared. The aroma of sweet potatoes and warm spices filling the kitchen was often enough to summon children from the far corners of the house. This dish was more than dessert. It was a demonstration of ingenuity and patience. Preparing sweet potato pone required careful folding and seasoning, ensuring that the natural sweetness of the root vegetable shone without being overpowering. Families often made it for Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, or community potlucks, turning simple ingredients into a centerpiece that symbolized comfort, togetherness, and pride. Its creation was also a subtle act of resourcefulness, transforming what was plentiful and affordable into a dish that felt celebratory, a little indulgent, yet accessible to everyone at the table. Today, sweet potato pone has largely faded from mainstream cooking, overshadowed by faster, sugar-heavy desserts. Yet it remains a reminder that comfort food is not only about richness, it is about memory, flavor, and care. Slicing through a warm golden wedge of sweet potato pone today is a taste of resilience, tradition, and ingenuity. It carries the legacy of kitchens that valued creativity over extravagance, proving that even the simplest, humblest ingredients can be transformed into something deeply soulful, comforting, and unforgettable. Molasses cookies. Molasses cookies are more than just a sweet treat. They are a bite of history, carrying the flavor and ingenuity of African American kitchens across generations. Born from times when sugar was scarce or costly, these cookies relied on the rich, dark sweetness of molasses, a pantry staple that added both flavor and depth. Combined with simple ingredients like flour, a touch of spice, ginger, cinnamon, or cloves, and a hint of fat, they were rolled, cut, and baked into warm, fragrant discs that were chewy at the center and slightly crisp around the edges. The aroma alone was enough to draw family members into the kitchen, a signal that comfort, care, and a little sweetness awaited. Making molasses cookies was as much about resourcefulness as it was about indulgence. Cooks learned to balance the intensity of molasses with the lightness of flour, to adjust spices, just so, and to make a small batch stretch far enough to satisfy hungry children or visiting neighbors. The act of baking was often communal, children helping to shape the dough, elders sharing tips and memories of holiday traditions, church socials, or neighborhood gatherings where these cookies were a must-have. Each bite carried not just sweetness, but a sense of family, history, and pride in making something delicious from modest ingredients. Though today, molasses cookies are often replaced by modern sugar-laden treats or pre-packaged snacks, their charm endures. They remind us that comfort food is about more than indulgence. It is about memory, ingenuity, and care. Enjoying a molasses cookie today is a connection to the past, a taste of kitchens that transformed frugality into flavor, and a reminder that even simple, humble ingredients can create something truly unforgettable. Vinegar pie. Vinegar pie is one of those dishes that seems almost too simple to be remarkable, yet it carries a legacy of ingenuity and resilience from African American kitchens of the past. Born in eras when sugar was scarce or expensive, cooks turned to vinegar to provide a subtle tang and balance in sweet pies, combining it with pantry staples like flour, eggs, butter, and a touch of molasses or sugar. The result is a custard-like filling, slightly tangy, lightly sweet, and deeply comforting, all nestled inside a flaky golden crust. It's the kind of dessert that surprises with flavor, proving that necessity can spark creativity. Making vinegar pie required skill and patience, even if the ingredients were humble. Cooks learned to temper the eggs carefully, mix the filling just so, and bake until the custard set with a tender wobble. Despite its modest ingredients, the pie became a centerpiece for family meals, church gatherings, or community events. celebrated for its balance of flavor and its reminder that a little resourcefulness could create something special. It was a testament to making the most of what was on hand, turning what might have been considered a poor man's dessert into a beloved treat that everyone could enjoy. Today, vinegar pie is largely forgotten, overshadowed by richer, sugar-heavy desserts. Yet revisiting it offers more than flavor. It's a taste of history, resilience, and creativity. A slice of vinegar pie today connects us to kitchens where frugality met skill, where every ingredient mattered, and where even the simplest dishes carried meaning. It reminds us that comfort food isn't always indulgent. Sometimes it's clever, resourceful, and deeply satisfying. A sweet lesson passed down through generations. Chess pie. Chess pie is one of those desserts that feels both familiar and mysterious, a staple in African American Southern kitchens that has survived generations largely through oral tradition. At first glance, it seems deceptively simple. A custard-like filling made of sugar, eggs, butter, a splash of milk, and just a hint of cornmeal to give it texture and stability. Yet this simplicity is what makes it remarkable. The pie bakes into a golden, slightly caramelized top, with a rich, creamy interior that wobbles just enough to tease the senses. Its sweetness is balanced, comforting, and unmistakably homey. A dessert meant to be shared, savored, and remembered. The origins of chess pie are steeped in frugality and ingenuity. In a time when ingredients were precious, cooks learned to make a little stretch far, creating a dessert that felt indulgent without requiring elaborate resources. Each pie told a story, a grandmother's hand guiding a young cook, a church social where the first slice was always the best, or a family gathering where the aroma of baking filled the entire house. The cornmeal, though minimal, was a clever trick, stabilizing the custard and giving the pie a subtle, earthy undertone. It was a lesson in resourcefulness, proving that simplicity could produce elegance and flavor that lingered long after the last bite. Today, chess pie is less common on everyday tables, often replaced by boxed desserts or fancier modern creations. Yet revisiting it reminds us that comfort food isn't always flashy. It's about heart, history, and careful attention to detail. Each slice of chess pie carries the legacy of kitchens that valued resourcefulness, flavor, and tradition. It's more than dessert. It's a taste of ingenuity, a piece of cultural memory, and a reminder that sometimes the humblest ingredients can produce the most enduring pleasures. Fried pudding. Fried pudding is one of those nostalgic desserts that feels like a secret passed down through generations, a humble creation from African American kitchens that turns simplicity into indulgence. Often made from leftover sweetened puddings or a basic cornmeal or flour-based batter, it is shaped into small cakes, dusted with a little flour or sugar, and fried until golden and crisp on the outside while remaining soft and tender inside. The contrast of textures, the crunchy exterior giving way to a warm, slightly gooey center, is what made it a favorite on family tables, church gatherings, and community socials. The dish was born from necessity and ingenuity. When sugar, milk, or eggs were scarce, cooks learned to stretch ingredients, transforming what might have been plain leftovers into something celebratory. A little frying oil, some care, and patience could elevate modest puddings into a treat that felt indulgent despite its humble components. Preparing fried pudding was often a communal affair, with children helping to shape the cakes and elders offering tips on the perfect golden brown finish. Each bite carried not just flavor, but a sense of tradition, family, and pride in making something extraordinary out of the ordinary. Today, fried pudding is largely absent from mainstream kitchens, overshadowed by packaged desserts and modern convenience foods. Yet revisiting it reminds us that comfort food is about creativity, heart, and memory as much as taste. A freshly fried cake, warm and slightly caramelized, offers a tangible connection to kitchens of the past, where frugality met flavor and resourcefulness became a form of art. Fried pudding is a sweet testament to resilience, proving that even the simplest ingredients, handled with care and ingenuity, can create a treat that lingers in memory long after the last bite. Slaw and ham hock salad. Slaw and ham hock salad is a dish that combines frugality with bold, comforting flavor, a true testament to African American culinary ingenuity. At its heart, it's a simple mixture of finely shredded cabbage, carrots, and onions, tossed with a tangy dressing of vinegar, a touch of sugar, and seasonings. The magic comes from the ham hock, simmered slowly until its meat is tender and infused with smoky richness, then shredded and folded into the salad. Every bite offers a satisfying contrast: crisp, slightly sharp vegetables balanced by the savory, melt-in-your-mouth meat. It's a dish that could turn modest ingredients into a centerpiece, a testament to resourcefulness in kitchens where nothing went to waste. The origins of the salad trace back to Southern kitchens where frugality met creativity. Ham hocks, often the leftover end of the ham, were prized for the flavor they could lend to soups, greens, and salads alike. Cooks learned to simmer them slowly, extracting every bit of taste while softening the meat to perfection. Preparing the slaw required care as well, shredding the cabbage thinly, balancing the acidity of the dressing, and folding in the smoky pork just right. Often this dish was served at family gatherings or Sunday dinners, a reminder that simplicity, patience, and attention could transform humble ingredients into something celebratory. Today, slaw and ham hock salad is rarely seen outside of traditional kitchens, eclipsed by fast food coleslaws or pre-packaged salads. Yet revisiting it reminds us that comfort food isn't always indulgent. It's about flavor, memory, and ingenuity. Each forkful is a connection to kitchens of the past where African American cooks transformed leftovers into sustenance, creativity into tradition, and simple vegetables into a dish rich with taste, history, and heart. Rice and beans casserole. Rice and beans casserole is a humble dish that tells a story of ingenuity, resilience, and community. For generations of African American families, rice and beans were pantry staples, affordable, filling, and versatile. By baking them together into a casserole, cooks transformed these simple ingredients into a warm, comforting meal that could feed a family or stretch across several meals. The dish is often seasoned with onions, garlic, a touch of smoked meat, and herbs, allowing modest pantry items to sing in harmony. The rice absorbs the flavors of the beans and seasonings, creating a cohesive, hearty dish with a tender, sometimes slightly crispy top that signals it's ready to be served. This casserole exemplifies resourcefulness. Beans, once a cornerstone of Southern African American diets, provided protein and sustenance while rice acted as the perfect filler, soaking up every bit of flavor. Preparing it required patience and care, layering ingredients thoughtfully, seasoning judiciously, and baking until the flavors melded into a savory whole. Often the dish became a communal effort, children stirring, elders supervising, and stories of Sunday dinners or church potlucks shared alongside the scent of a bubbling casserole. Each serving carried not just nutrition, but a sense of tradition and pride in turning basic ingredients into something comforting and memorable. In today's world, where convenience meals dominate, rice and beans casserole has largely been overlooked, yet it remains a testament to simplicity done well. Revisiting it reminds us that comfort food isn't always extravagant. It can be humble, nourishing, and deeply satisfying. Each bite is a connection to kitchens of the past where African American cooks combined patience, creativity, and frugality to produce a dish rich in flavor, history, and heart. Rice and beans casserole proves that even the simplest ingredients handled with care can create a meal that feels like home. Spoon bread. Spoon bread is a dish that embodies the comforting ingenuity of African American Southern kitchens. A simple yet deeply satisfying creation that has graced family tables for generations. Unlike traditional bread, spoon bread has a custardy, tender interior that is soft enough to scoop with a spoon, achieved by combining cornmeal with milk, eggs, and a little fat before baking. The result is a delicate, slightly sweet, and golden dish that balances the earthiness of cornmeal with a creamy, airy texture, making it both hearty and comforting. The origins of spoon bread lie in frugality and creativity. Cornmeal was inexpensive and widely available, yet when combined with eggs and milk, it could produce a dish that felt indulgent and celebratory. Preparing it required patience, carefully whisking the batter to incorporate air, gently folding in ingredients to maintain lightness, and baking until just set. In many households, the aroma of spoon bread rising in the oven was a signal that a meal was about to be shared. A moment of togetherness, a chance for storytelling, laughter, and the passing down of culinary wisdom. Today, spoon bread is rarely seen on modern tables, often overshadowed by bread machines or boxed mixes, yet its charm endures. It reminds us that comfort food isn't always about richness or extravagance, it's about texture, care, and the ability to transform modest ingredients into something memorable. Each scoop of spoon bread today connects us to the kitchens of the past, where African American cooks turned simple cornmeal into a dish of warmth, heart, and tradition. Spoon bread is a gentle reminder that even the humblest ingredients, when handled with skill and love, can produce a dish that is both comforting and unforgettable. Fried okra with buttermilk. Fried okra with buttermilk is a dish that captures the soul of Southern African American kitchens, turning a humble vegetable into a crispy, flavorful indulgence. Fresh okra pods are sliced, soaked briefly in tangy buttermilk, then coated in cornmeal and fried until golden brown. The result is a satisfying contrast, a crunchy, lightly seasoned exterior giving way to tender, slightly mucilaginous interiors that are uniquely okra. The buttermilk not only helps the coating stick, but also adds a subtle tang that balances the richness of the frying, creating a dish that is simple, comforting, and utterly delicious. This dish reflects ingenuity and frugality. Okra was widely available, affordable, and nutritious, while buttermilk, often a byproduct of butter making, added moisture and flavor without extra cost. Preparing fried okra required care and attention. Slicing the pods evenly, soaking them just long enough, and frying at the right temperature to achieve that perfect golden crunch. Families often gathered in the kitchen during frying, drawn by the sizzling sound and the mouth-watering aroma, while sharing stories or passing down seasoning tips from one generation to the next. The dish was more than food. It was a lesson in patience, resourcefulness, and the joy of transforming ordinary ingredients into something memorable. Today, fried okra with buttermilk is less common on everyday tables, replaced by frozen vegetables or fast food sides. Yet it remains a timeless comfort food. Revisiting it offers more than flavor. It's a connection to kitchens of the past, a taste of tradition, and a reminder that even simple ingredients can be elevated into something extraordinary. Each crisp, golden bite carries history, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit of African American home cooking. Cornmeal mush. Cornmeal mush is a dish that harks back to the heart of African American Southern kitchens, where frugality met creativity and simplicity became a canvas for flavor.
Hi Debbie, and today I am making cornmeal mush.
Made from cornmeal cooked slowly in water or milk until thickened into a porridge-like consistency, it could be served soft and creamy for breakfast or allowed to set, then sliced and fried to golden perfection. The dish was humble yet satisfying, providing a filling and versatile foundation that could be enhanced with a pat of butter, a drizzle of syrup, or a sprinkle of sugar. Ingredients often stretched carefully to feed a family. The origins of cornmeal mush lie in necessity and ingenuity. Cornmeal was inexpensive and widely available, making it an ideal staple during times of scarcity. Preparing it required patience, stirring continuously to prevent lumps, and cooking it just long enough to achieve a smooth, creamy texture. Families often gathered around the stove during the process, children learning the rhythm of stirring, and elders passing down tips for achieving the perfect consistency. When fried, the slices developed a crisp, golden exterior while retaining a soft, comforting interior. A perfect balance of textures that turned a simple grain into a dish of substance and delight. Though largely forgotten on modern breakfast tables, replaced by boxed cereals or quick grain alternatives, cornmeal mush remains a testament to resourcefulness and tradition. Revisiting it connects us to a past where comfort food was about patience, care, and making the most of humble ingredients. Each spoonful or crisped slice carries history, memory, and the quiet ingenuity of kitchens that transformed ordinary cornmeal into nourishment for body and soul. Cornmeal mush proves that simplicity, when treated with respect and creativity, can become enduring comfort. Red-eye gravy biscuits. Red-eye gravy biscuits are a dish that embodies the clever simplicity and bold flavors of African American Southern kitchens. The biscuits themselves are tender and flaky, baked to a golden perfection. Yet it's the red-eye gravy that transforms the humble bread into something unforgettable. Made from the drippings of fried ham and a splash of strong black coffee, the gravy is thin, slightly bitter, and deeply savory, a perfect foil for the buttery biscuits. The combination creates a balance of richness and sharpness, a flavor that lingers long after the meal is finished. This dish was born out of frugality and ingenuity. Ham was a prized yet expensive item, and every bit of drippings mattered. Combining those drippings with coffee not only stretched the flavor, but added depth and complexity that elevated an otherwise simple meal. Preparing the biscuits and gravy required attention. The biscuits needed to be tender yet sturdy enough to hold the thin gravy, while the coffee-infused sauce had to be whisked just right to bring out the savory, sweet interplay. Families often enjoyed this dish at breakfast or brunch, the aroma filling the kitchen, drawing everyone to the table, and sparking conversation and storytelling alongside the meal. In today's fast-paced world, red-eye gravy biscuits are rarely found outside traditional kitchens or specialty restaurants. Yet they remain a vivid reminder that comfort food doesn't need to be extravagant. Each bite is a taste of history, a lesson in resourcefulness, and a connection to kitchens where frugality met flavor. The biscuits and the coffee-kissed gravy together showcase the creativity, patience, and heart of African American cooks, proving that even the simplest ingredients, when handled with care, can create something remarkable, soulful, and deeply satisfying. Oxtail stew. Oxtail stew is a dish that carries the deep, slow-cooked flavors of African American Southern kitchens, transforming an overlooked cut of meat into a celebration of ingenuity and patience. Oxtails, tough and gelatinous when raw, are simmered for hours with onions, garlic, carrots, and a medley of seasonings until the meat falls from the bone and the broth thickens into a rich, savory elixir. The long cooking process draws out collagen and marrow, giving the stew a velvety, almost luxurious texture that belies its humble beginnings. Each spoonful is warming, hearty, and profoundly comforting, a dish that nourished both body and spirit through generations. The origins of oxtail stew lie in necessity and resourcefulness. In times when prime cuts were expensive or reserved for special occasions, families made the most of every part of the animal. Cooking oxtails required patience and skill, browning the meat for flavor, simmering slowly to tenderize, and balancing seasoning to complement the naturally rich broth. Often, the stew would be served with rice, cornbread, or vegetables, turning a modest cut into a meal capable of feeding a family and leaving them satisfied. The act of preparing it was a labor of love, often bringing family members together in the kitchen, sharing stories, techniques, and laughter while the pot bubbled away. Today, oxtail stew is less common on everyday tables, often replaced by quicker, more convenient meals, yet its legacy endures. Revisiting it is more than a culinary experience. It is a connection to the history of kitchens that prized patience, creativity, and flavor over extravagance. Each tender, rich bite of oxtail stew carries with it the memory of frugal ingenuity, familial warmth, and the enduring soul of African American home cooking. Butter beans with bacon. Butter beans with bacon is a dish that exemplifies the simplicity, flavor, and ingenuity of African American Southern kitchens. Large, creamy butter beans are slowly simmered with smoky bacon, onions, and a touch of seasoning until the beans are tender and the flavors meld into a rich, savory harmony. The beans absorb the smoky, salty essence of the bacon, creating a dish that is both hearty and comforting, a perfect side or main for a family meal. Every bite carries a sense of warmth and tradition, reminding us that even the simplest ingredients can create something memorable when handled with care. The dish has its roots in frugality and resourcefulness. Beans were inexpensive, abundant, and nutritious, while bacon, though limited, added a depth of flavor that elevated the humble legumes. Preparing butter beans with bacon required patience, slow cooking to ensure the beans remained tender without falling apart, and careful seasoning to balance the smokiness and richness of the pork. Often, the dish was made for Sunday dinners, community gatherings, or everyday family meals, and it became a vehicle for passing down culinary wisdom. Children watched and learned as elders demonstrated how to coax maximum flavor from simple, modest ingredients. Today, butter beans with bacon is rarely a staple on modern tables, overtaken by convenience foods or canned alternatives. Yet, it remains a testament to traditional comfort cooking. Revisiting it is more than a culinary experience. It's a connection to kitchens that valued patience, creativity, and soulful flavors. Each creamy, smoky bite is a reminder of frugal ingenuity and familial care, proving that even ordinary pantry staples, when thoughtfully prepared, can produce a dish rich in taste, history, and heart. Baked macaroni with cheese. Original pre-boxed. Baked macaroni with cheese in its original homemade form is a dish that tells a story of comfort, ingenuity, and African American culinary tradition long before the convenience of boxed versions. This version relied on pantry staples, elbow macaroni, milk, butter, flour, and sharp or mild cheese, to create a creamy, cheesy casserole baked to bubbling perfection. The edges would brown slightly in the oven, forming a golden crust that gave way to a rich, velvety interior, each forkful delivering the satisfying pull of melted cheese and tender pasta. Unlike the instant boxed variety, this dish required attention, patience, and love, turning simple ingredients into a comforting, communal meal. Its origins trace back to frugality and resourcefulness. Cheese was a precious commodity. Milk might be skimmed from the family's own cow, and the pasta stretched to feed the whole household. Cooks learned to make a roux for the cheese sauce, to season it just right, and to balance creaminess with texture. Baked macaroni and cheese became a staple for Sunday dinners, church potlucks, and family gatherings. A dish that could fill stomachs, warm hearts, and bring everyone together around the table. The process of making it was as much about teaching and tradition as it was about sustenance, with elders guiding young cooks on the nuances of timing, seasoning, and achieving that perfect golden crust. Today, baked macaroni and cheese is often associated with pre-packaged convenience, yet revisiting the original version offers a taste of history and craft. Each creamy, cheesy bite is a reminder that comfort food thrives on care, patience, and ingenuity. This dish exemplifies how African American kitchens transformed modest ingredients into something nourishing, soulful, and enduring. A lesson in flavor, tradition, and the art of making the ordinary extraordinary. Sweet potato pie, heirloom versions. Sweet potato pie, particularly the heirloom versions passed down through African American families, is more than a dessert. It is a celebration of history, resourcefulness, and cultural memory. Unlike modern variations that rely heavily on sugar and shortcuts, these traditional recipes embrace the natural sweetness and earthy richness of roasted or boiled sweet potatoes, often mashed by hand and combined with eggs, milk, a touch of butter, and a delicate blend of spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. Some heirloom versions include a hint of vanilla, a splash of molasses, or even a whisper of citrus to balance the flavors, creating a custard-like filling nestled in a tender, flaky crust. Every slice carries warmth, depth, and the unmistakable taste of care and tradition. The origins of heirloom sweet potato pie reflect both ingenuity and necessity. Sweet potatoes were widely available, affordable, and nourishing, making them an ideal ingredient in times of scarcity. Cooks transformed this humble root into a celebratory dessert for Sunday dinners, holidays, and community gatherings, teaching each generation the subtleties of seasoning, texture, and balance. Preparing the pie was often a communal act, elders sharing stories as children mashed potatoes or rolled dough, the kitchen filled with the scent of baking spices, and the anticipation of a shared meal. It was more than a dessert. It was a vessel for memory, pride, and continuity. Today, sweet potato pie remains a symbol of resilience and creativity, though modern shortcuts and commercial recipes have changed its character. Heirloom versions remind us that comfort food is about care, patience, and honoring tradition. Each bite is a connection to kitchens of the past, a taste of ingenuity, and a celebration of African American culinary heritage, proving that even the simplest ingredients, handled with love and wisdom, can produce a dessert that is soulful, comforting, and unforgettable. Chicken foot soup. Chicken foot soup is a dish that embodies ingenuity, frugality, and deep-rooted tradition in African American Southern kitchens. At first mention, it may seem unconventional to modern palates, but for generations, chicken feet, rich in collagen and flavor, were transformed into a nourishing, hearty broth that became the base for a soulful soup. Simmered slowly with onions, garlic, herbs, and root vegetables like carrots or potatoes, the feet release gelatin that gives the broth a silky, rich texture, turning humble ingredients into a deeply satisfying meal. Every sip is warming, hearty, and a testament to making the most of what is available. The origins of chicken foot soup are steeped in resourcefulness. In times when every part of the chicken mattered, cooks learned to extract maximum flavor and nutrition from pieces often overlooked by wealthier households. Preparing the soup required patience, cleaning and blanching the feet, simmering the broth long enough to draw out flavor and gelatin, and balancing seasoning to enhance, not overwhelm. For many families, this was a communal process with stories, wisdom, and culinary techniques passed from one generation to the next, turning the act of cooking into a ritual of connection and education. Today, chicken foot soup is rarely seen on mainstream tables, largely overshadowed by convenience soups or boneless cuts. Yet revisiting it offers more than sustenance. It's a taste of history, resilience, and creativity. Each spoonful carries the flavors of kitchens that valued thrift, skill, and patience, and the memory of meals shared in family and community. Chicken foot soup is a reminder that comfort food is often born from necessity, transformed by care, and deeply rooted in tradition, proving that even the most humble ingredients can create something nourishing, soulful, and unforgettable. Sauce, head cheese. Sauce, often called head cheese, is a dish that might raise eyebrows today, yet it was once a staple of African American kitchens, a testament to resourcefulness, ingenuity, and culinary skill. Despite its name, sauce isn't actually cheese. It is a terrine made from the meat, fat, and skin of a pig's head, carefully cooked, seasoned with vinegar, onions, and spices, then set in its own gelatin to chill into a sliceable form. The result is tangy, savory, and deeply flavorful, with textures ranging from tender meat to the slight chew of the skin, all bound together in a jelly that preserves flavor and stretches a humble cut of meat into multiple meals. Sauce emerged from necessity. In times when every part of the animal mattered, cooks learned to transform what others discarded into something celebratory and nourishing. Making sauce required attention, patience, and a keen understanding of seasoning and texture. The meat had to be cooked just long enough to become tender while maintaining integrity. Vinegar had to be balanced to add tang without overpowering, and the resulting jelly needed time to set properly. In many households, the preparation was a communal affair, with knowledge passed from grandmother to granddaughter, and the final dish proudly displayed at family gatherings, picnics, or church socials. Though largely forgotten today, replaced by more conventional deli meats or cold cuts, sauce remains a vibrant example of comfort food built on creativity and frugality. Revisiting it offers a taste of history, resourcefulness, and culinary skill, reminding us that African American kitchens turned humble cuts into treasured meals. Each slice carries flavor, memory, and the enduring spirit of cooks who understood that even the most overlooked ingredients could produce something extraordinary, satisfying, and deeply soulful. Pig's ear salad. Pig's ear salad is a dish that exemplifies the ingenuity, resourcefulness, and bold flavors of traditional African American Southern kitchens. Though it may seem unconventional today, pig's ears were a prized ingredient in times when every part of the animal mattered. The ears are first simmered or boiled until tender, then thinly sliced and tossed with a dressing of vinegar, onions, peppers, and sometimes a touch of oil or spices. The result is a salad with a surprising combination of textures, Slightly chewy, yet tender, tangy, and deeply savory. A dish that transforms what might have been considered scraps into a flavorful centerpiece. The origins of pig's ear salad are rooted in thrift and creativity. Cooks learned to make the most of what was available, turning humble, overlooked cuts into something delicious and celebratory. Preparing the dish required skill, cooking the ears just long enough to achieve the right texture, balancing acidity with seasoning, and combining ingredients so that the flavors melded harmoniously. Often, it was made for family gatherings, church socials, or holiday meals where the tangy, flavorful salad became a conversation starter and a symbol of culinary pride. Today, pig's ear salad is rarely found outside traditional kitchens or specialty tables. But revisiting it offers a taste of history and resilience. It reminds us that comfort food isn't always about luxury. It's about transforming simple ingredients into something memorable. Each bite carries the legacy of kitchens that valued resourcefulness, patience, and flavor, proving that even the most overlooked parts of an animal could be elevated into a dish that nourished, delighted, and connected families across generations. Pig's ear salad is a testament to creativity, tradition, and the enduring soul of African American home cooking. Liver pate on crackers. Liver pate on crackers is a dish that highlights the resourcefulness and culinary creativity of African American kitchens, turning a humble organ meat into a sophisticated yet accessible snack. Liver, often from chicken, beef, or pork, is blended with butter, onions, garlic, and a careful mix of seasonings to create a smooth, spreadable pate. Served on simple crackers, it balances richness with crunch, providing a savory, flavorful bite that stretches a modest ingredient into an appetizer or accompaniment suitable for both everyday meals and special gatherings. The dish emerged from necessity and ingenuity. Organ meats were affordable and nutrient-dense, but often overlooked by wealthier households. Cooks learned to transform the liver's strong flavor into something palatable and even indulgent through careful preparation, sautéing the liver to preserve moisture, blending it with butter and seasonings, and chilling it to set the pate. Families often enjoyed this as a treat for children, a starter for holiday meals, or a way to stretch protein further. Preparing it became a culinary lesson in balancing flavors, textures, and presentation, with children learning the nuances of seasoning and elders passing down recipes that had been refined over generations. Today, liver pate on crackers is rarely found on modern tables, replaced by packaged spreads or deli options. Yet revisiting it offers more than flavor. It is a connection to a history of frugality, creativity, and care. Each creamy, savory bite reminds us that comfort food isn't always indulgent. It can be humble, resourceful, and deeply satisfying. Liver pate on crackers carries the legacy of African American kitchens that turned ordinary ingredients into dishes full of flavor, heart, and culinary ingenuity. Pond fish croquettes. Pond fish croquettes are a dish that perfectly illustrates the ingenuity and resourcefulness of African American home cooks, especially in rural southern communities. Using small, locally caught freshwater fish, often sunfish, bream, or other pond varieties, cooks transformed what might have been considered ordinary or humble protein into golden, crispy, flavorful patties. The fish is deboned, flaked, and combined with simple binders like breadcrumbs or cornmeal, eggs, and seasonings before being pan-fried until crisp outside and tender inside. Each bite offers a delightful combination of texture and flavor, turning modest catches into a meal worthy of the family table. The origins of pond fish croquettes lie in frugality and creativity. In times when fresh meat was scarce or expensive, fish from local ponds provided an affordable, accessible source of protein. Cooks learned to remove bones carefully, season to enhance flavor, and fry in just the right amount of oil to achieve a golden crust. The process often became a family affair, with children helping to flake the fish or shape the patties, while elders shared stories and culinary techniques. These croquettes were more than sustenance. They were a lesson in turning simplicity into something celebratory, nourishing, and deeply satisfying. Today, pondfish croquettes are rarely seen on mainstream menus, often overshadowed by store-bought fish products or convenience meals. Yet, revisiting them provides more than flavor. It connects us to kitchens, where ingenuity and care transformed everyday ingredients into memorable dishes. Each golden, crispy croquette is a taste of history, resilience, and tradition. A reminder that comfort food is about heart, creativity, and to turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. And there you have it. 30 lost African American comfort foods that once filled kitchens with flavor, warmth, and creativity. From humble pantry staples to ingenious uses of every bit of the animal, these dishes tell stories of resilience, family, and tradition. If you enjoyed this culinary journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tastes of history and forgotten favorites. Which of these dishes would you bring back to your table? Let us know in the comments. Hamburger rice hot dish. Before one-pot meals became a buzzword, there was the hamburger rice hot dish. Midwestern efficiency in edible form. It was the kind of dinner that didn't try to impress anyone, but somehow always disappeared first at a potluck. Born in the practical kitchens of the 1950s and 60s, this dish represented everything the casserole stood for: cheap, filling, and easy enough to make while juggling kids, chores, and a party line phone call. Campbell's gave it the seal of approval in their cookbooklets, proudly featuring it alongside other recipes that stretched a single pound of ground beef into something that could feed 6. The formula was simple and forgiving. Browned hamburger, cooked rice, and a can or two of cream of mushroom or celery soup. Sometimes both, depending on what was hiding in the pantry. A handful of chopped onion, or a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce made it feel homemade, and a scattering of cheese or crushed crackers on top turned it golden and comforting. Every family had their own twist, a splash of soy sauce here, frozen peas there. In Minnesota, it was called a hot dish. Elsewhere, it was just Tuesday dinner. But beneath that simplicity was something deeper. This meal told the story of post-war thrift, of families who turned limited ingredients into abundance. It fed construction workers, teachers, and growing kids with a hearty, no-nonsense flavor. It wasn't glamorous, but it was dependable, like the enamel baking dish it was cooked in. Today, you can still find versions floating around on church recipe cards and community blogs, sometimes renamed beef and rice bake to sound trendier. But no matter what you call it, hamburger rice hot dish remains a quiet triumph of practicality, a recipe that made do and made it delicious. Fiesta casserole. Back when the 1970s promised that every dinner could be an adventure, Fiesta casserole arrived in a burst of canned optimism. This was Campbell's answer to America's growing fascination with Mexican-inspired cuisine, an era when chili powder counted as exotic and shredded cheese was a gateway to global flavor. Housewives loved it because it sounded exciting, colorful, and most importantly, still used the same 3 cans sitting in their pantry. The recipe was a simple layering act. Ground beef browned in a skillet, corn, tomatoes, a can of cream of chicken or tomato soup, and a generous sprinkle of cheddar on top. Some versions added tortilla chips for crunch. Others spooned it over rice. It baked into a bubbling, cheesy mosaic that felt festive even on a weeknight. This was not authentic Mexican food by any stretch. It was America doing its best impression of spicy, and somehow that made it charming. What made Fiesta casserole special wasn't its ingredients, but its spirit. It represented a generation of home cooks who were just beginning to peek beyond meatloaf and mashed potatoes, testing the waters of international flavor, 1 can at a time. Campbell's cookbooklet sold the fantasy of adventure without leaving the kitchen. Add a few olives or a pinch of cumin, and suddenly dinner had flair. As tastes evolved, Fiesta casserole faded from rotation, overtaken by actual tacos, enchiladas, and recipes with fresh cilantro instead of dried flakes. But for many, it remains a nostalgic symbol of the era's cheerful experimentation, when Fiesta meant a reason to gather, laugh, and dig into something warm and cheesy from the oven. It wasn't authenticity that mattered, it was effort, color, and the comfort of discovering that even a can of soup could feel like a celebration. Turkey Rice Oriental. In the 1960s, America was obsessed with all things international, and Campbell's was eager to join the culinary adventure, without straying too far from the comfort of a can. Enter Turkey Rice Oriental, a dish that promised a trip to the Far East without leaving the suburbs. It was a time when anything with soy sauce, rice, or the word Oriental felt worldly, and Campbell's Test Kitchen knew exactly how to bottle that curiosity into a quick, budget-friendly casserole. The recipe blended the familiar with the foreign, or at least what mid-century America thought was foreign. Leftover turkey or chicken, mixed with white rice, cream of mushroom soup, soy sauce, and canned vegetables like water chestnuts or bean sprouts. It baked into a creamy, salty, subtly Asian-inspired concoction that felt daring, but still safe. Some versions even added a few crunchy chow mein noodles on top, sealing the illusion of international flair with a satisfying crackle. For many homemakers, it was a revelation, a way to reinvent yesterday's leftovers into something that sounded modern and sophisticated. The dish represented the post-war optimism of the era, a belief that even from the contents of your pantry, you could participate in the wider world. It was culinary imagination, powered by canned goods and marketing charm. Today, Turkey Rice Oriental reads more like a time capsule than a recipe. The name alone feels like a postcard from another era, one that saw Oriental as exotic shorthand rather than geography. But beneath its dated label lies a story worth remembering, of cooks who dreamed big with what they had, who turned leftovers into novelty, and who found excitement in a splash of soy sauce poured straight from the bottle onto a bubbling casserole of comfort. Golden mushroom Salisbury steaks. There was a time when dinner didn't need to look fancy to feel indulgent. It just needed to simmer in a skillet long enough to smell like home. Golden mushroom Salisbury steaks were the kind of meal that made a family feel rich on a weeknight. The dish took a humble staple, ground beef patties, and dressed it up with Campbell's golden mushroom soup. transforming it into something that felt downright restaurant-worthy in 1965. It was proof that luxury could come from a can. The magic lay in the sauce, a deep, tangy blend of tomato, beef stock, and mushrooms that clung to every bite. Housewives browned their patties in cast iron, poured over the soup, and let it bubble into a glossy gravy that turned mashed potatoes into a feast. No measuring, no guesswork, just dependable flavor in under 30 minutes. For busy families, that was modern cooking at its finest. Culturally, this dish hit all the right notes. It fit neatly into the post-war promise of better living through convenience, giving working parents the satisfaction of serving something hearty, warm, and a little fancy without breaking the budget. Campbell's ads framed it as a shortcut to sophistication. Serve it tonight and they'll think you cooked all day. By the 1980s, the golden mushroom variant faded into the shadows of microwave dinners and low-fat trends. But for many, the memory of that rich, savory sauce still lingers. The scent of browning beef, the hiss of the skillet, the sound of the can opener turning. Golden mushroom Salisbury steaks were more than a meal. They were a promise that comfort and class could coexist in one pan, held together by nothing more than ground beef, condensed soup, and a dash of hope. Creamy potato bake. Before au gratin became the go-to phrase for elegance, there was creamy potato bake, the honest, working-class cousin that didn't need a French accent to win hearts. This was the casserole dish that showed up everywhere. Church potlucks, Sunday suppers, and weeknights when payday was still 2 days away. It was warm, humble, and built entirely on trust in a can of Campbell's cream of mushroom or celery soup. The beauty of it was in its simplicity. Thinly sliced potatoes were layered in a buttered dish, sprinkled with salt and pepper, then drowned, lovingly, in a mixture of condensed soup and milk. Some cooks added cheese, others swore that ruined the purity of the thing. A little onion or leftover ham might sneak in if the fridge demanded it. After an hour in the oven, it emerged bubbling and so golden, the edges crisped, the center tender and velvety. It didn't just fill the house with warmth, it made it smell like belonging. In the 1950s and 60s, this kind of dish was the backbone of family cooking. Thrifty, forgiving, and endlessly adaptable. You could feed a crowd or stretch a meal with little more than potatoes and creativity. It wasn't glamorous, but it didn't need to be. The creamy potato bake was proof that comfort food didn't have to come with a price tag. It just needed time, patience, and the right casserole dish. As food trends shifted toward faster and fancier, this dish faded quietly from cookbooks, replaced by instant scalloped potatoes and microwave sides. Yet in handwritten recipe cards and fading index boxes, creamy potato bake endures. A reminder that the simplest meals often hold the most heart, and that sometimes home really is layered in potatoes and soup. Chicken a la king, Campbell's style. Once considered the height of sophistication, chicken a la king was the kind of dish that made a homemaker feel like she just served something straight out of a restaurant menu without ever leaving her kitchen. Originally born in the late 19th century as a rich cream and sherry chicken entree, it got the Campbell's treatment by the 1950s, quicker, thriftier, and friendlier to the average grocery budget. The company's condensed soups, usually cream of mushroom or cream of chicken, turned a once fancy dish into a weeknight classic fit for the masses. Campbell's version was simple: shredded cooked chicken, chopped pimentos, and a handful of peas or bell peppers simmered in the creamy base, served over toast, rice, or those perfectly wobbly canned biscuits that defined the era. It was thick, smooth, and gloriously rich, the kind of meal that felt special occasion even on a Monday. Many families served it with parsley for color, and some replaced the chicken with tuna or turkey, depending on what was left over. In its heyday, it was considered an ideal company dish. Fancy name, minimal effort. Culturally, chicken a la king marked a turning point in American cooking. It bridged the gap between old-world formality and modern convenience, bringing luxury to the suburban dinner table one can at a time. It was creamy, comforting, and endlessly adaptable, the definition of mid-century ingenuity. By the 1980s, its shine had dulled. The name felt dated, the sauce too heavy, and fast food had stolen the thrill of convenience. Yet for many, one whiff of that savory sauce brings back memories of Pyrex dishes, family chatter, and the pride of serving something that sounded a little regal. In true Campbell's fashion, it proved that elegance could come from a can and a clever home cook. Macaroni and tomato soup casserole. There's something timeless about the smell of pasta, cheese, and tomato bubbling together in the oven. But before lasagna ruled the dinner table, there was macaroni and tomato soup casserole. This was the no-frills, everyman's version of comfort. Part pantry experiment, part Depression-era ingenuity, and entirely American. Campbell's turned it into a staple in their mid-century cookbooks, promising a meal that could feed the family, fill the stomach, and still leave a few cans for next week's paycheck. The recipe was as straightforward as it gets. Cooked elbow macaroni stirred with a can or two of Campbell's tomato soup, a splash of milk for creaminess, and maybe some ground beef or hot dogs if you were feeling generous. A handful of grated cheese on top transformed it into pure, bubbling satisfaction. No expensive ingredients, no fancy technique. Just a red, saucy hug in casserole form. Kids loved it because it tasted familiar, like spaghetti night without the weight. Parents loved it because it stretched a box of pasta into days of leftovers. But beneath that simplicity was the story of a generation that learned to make something from almost nothing. In the 1950s and 60s, dishes like this weren't shortcuts. They were survival recipes, designed to bring warmth to cold nights and stability to uncertain times. Campbell's marketed it as wholesome and hearty, but to many families, it was more than that. It was a reminder that dinner could be dependable, even when life wasn't. Today, the macaroni and tomato soup casserole survives quietly in handwritten recipe boxes and nostalgic Pinterest boards. It might not win gourmet points, but it still earns the one that matters most: comfort. A can opener, a saucepan, and a little trust in tradition. That's all it ever needed. Shepherd's pie with tomato soup. Before food bloggers turned shepherd's pie into a rustic masterpiece topped with perfectly piped potatoes, there was the Campbell's version. Humble, hearty, and made for real life. Shepherd's pie with tomato soup was the working family's answer to leftovers and weeknight hunger, a casserole that transformed scraps into something that felt like home. Forget the lamb and fancy herbs. This one was pure practicality, wrapped in nostalgia. In Campbell's cookbooks of the 1950s and 60s, the recipe called for the usual suspects: browned ground beef, or whatever meat you had on hand, canned vegetables, and the secret weapon: a can of tomato soup instead of gravy. It gave the dish a tangy sweetness that clung to every bite, binding the humble ingredients together beneath a golden blanket of mashed potatoes. Some homemakers added Worcestershire for zip, others swirled in a little milk for creaminess, but the goal was always the same: feed the family well for less. This version of shepherd's pie wasn't about tradition. It was about adaptation. It told the story of mid-century kitchens where canned goods were lifelines and every ingredient had to earn its keep. The tomato soup made it modern for its time, bright, quick, and distinctly American. It was a reinvention of an old European dish for a post-war generation learning to balance taste, thrift, and convenience. By today's standards, it's a time capsule meal. No artisan mashed potatoes, no farm-to-table anything. But there's an honesty to it that still hits home. One forkful, and you remember why our grandparents didn't overthink dinner. Shepherd's pie with tomato soup wasn't just food. It was proof that comfort didn't need perfection, just a can opener and a little heart. Creamed chipped beef on toast. Few dishes carry as much history and humor as creamed chipped beef on toast. Known affectionately, and sometimes not so affectionately, as SOS in military slang, this dish marched straight from the mess hall into American home kitchens after World War II. When Campbell's added its own spin with condensed cream soups, it turned a military necessity into a mid-century breakfast classic. One that was equal parts frugal, filling, and familiar. The recipe couldn't have been simpler. Dried chipped beef sautéed in butter, stirred into a creamy sauce made from a can of Campbell's cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup, then poured generously over toasted white bread. Sometimes peas were added for color, sometimes a sprinkle of paprika to make it feel fancy, but mostly it was salt, starch, and comfort. The kind of meal that stuck to your ribs in your memory. It was born from scarcity, but dressed up for peacetime. Housewives of the 1950s found in it a quick meal that required no fresh meat, no elaborate shopping, and no complaints from the kids. Campbell's even marketed it as a savory supper solution, a phrase that made leftovers and canned beef sound almost luxurious. And in its own way, it was. Simple proof that resourcefulness could taste like home. Today, creamed chipped beef on toast survives mostly in diners, nostalgic cookbooks, and the occasional ironic brunch menu. But underneath the jokes and the nicknames lies a dish that once meant stability and sustenance. It's salty, creamy, unapologetically beige, and somehow still comforting. Like much of mid-century cooking, it wasn't about glamour. It was about getting by deliciously. And that's a legacy worth remembering, one toast at a time.